So first, a reminder as we move through the text and the various steps in the ritual. It's easy for us to fall back into a kind of default place where we're thinking, on the one hand, perhaps, these qualities are so fantastic, they're outside of any possibility that I could even understand what they were, let alone that I would embody them. So that kind of thinking accomplishes the very end it imagines. It cannot be accomplished. But we're not engaged in accomplishing that. We're engaged in recognizing the presence of that awakened mind which is already, always has been present. As the Buddha once said to a man who asked, "What is the difference between you and me?" And he said, "None. You are endowed with the same awakened mind that I am endowed with. The difference is I recognize it, you don't. That's the only difference." So that basically defines the starting point for the entire tradition, which is your job is to recognize it, not to make it and put it inside yourself somehow, but to recognize what's already there. Like a mirror that you look in the morning, you're reminded, oh, that's what I look like. And sometimes happily and sometimes not, but anyway. When we engage in this practice with some familiarity, we are meant to have that sense of seeing it. And from time to time, you will see it. That is not fantastic. In other words, it happens regularly. But we have a sense that once having seen it, we need to reproduce it. But it can never be reproduced. It's always fresh. And so we're a bit fooled by that. But as we move into the rest of the sadhana, or the practice, let's be clear about this, that we are not postulating things that are outside of our ability. We are postulating the possibility of actually seeing what always has been and still is. Okay, so we're on page 23. We were, is that, am I right?
17.
We didn't do the 7.
Oh, we didn't do this. Okay. Yes, move forward to 23. Here we have two things. On page 23 and 24, we have another homage to Chenrezig. When you recite the homage, you are meant to also continue to hold the visualization of Chenrezig on the crown of our heads and on the crown of the heads of all sentient beings. Let's recite just in English on page 23 and page 24 the homage once, just in English.
I'm going to need to ask someone to give me my text because it's in the selection of. I didn't realize you had it in there.
Okay.
So English? Did you say English?
Yes.
Yep,
Sorry.
it's okay.
I pray to thee, Lama
Chenrezig, I pray to you, Yidam Chenrezig. I pray to you, perfect noble Chenrezig. I pray to you, refuge protector Chenrezig. I pray to you, Lord of love Chenrezig. Victorious and compassionate one, hold us with your compassion. For beings experiencing unbearable suffering, wandering numberless in endless samsara, there is no refuge other than you, protector. Grant the blessing to attain all-knowing Buddhahood.
Did you want us to continue?
It was just stopping there. Yep. This prayer is interesting because it embodies or is embedded with Chenrezig's job description. So it's not like any job description we've seen, but that's fundamentally what it is. The prayer is also what the prayer relates to and postulates is the reason why Chenrezig has a job description. So the prayer references numerous, 6 exactly, realms of experience, not just in the world that we know, but in the confusion embedded in the minds of sentient beings, confused beings, since time without beginning. And all of the experiences that those beings have since time without beginning are contained in this short prayer, referenced, let's say, not contained. Chenrezig, whose all-seeing eye, sees the suffering and its causes amongst all beings. and so sets about to remedy that. So in a certain way, and there is a whole series of teachings on this, the practice, this very practice of Chenrezig, includes the birth of Chenrezig, which we can recall from the place where we generated the Hri on the crown of our heads. So that's the seed, and the appearance of Chenrezig from that seed is the birth of Chenrezig. The recognition of the nature of suffering and all the realms of experience is the movement towards Chenrezig's engaging in his actual activity, which is to remove the suffering and its causes. And so this prayer contains both a description, a short description, of the nature of the suffering in the various realms, and it also includes the activity of Chenrezig removing that suffering and its causes, which is followed finally by the end of that life. So it's kind of like, you could say, it's like a sketch of one life for this bodhisattva. Like they are born, they engage in certain activities, and then of course they die, and they're reborn again. So they just continue in this cycle. And I'm speaking kind of loosely. There's kind of a technical speech around it that should be used, but we don't have another day to put into this, so if you'll read with me through this, I'm going to read it, and I'm going to say a little bit about it as we move through it. And you can go back and go through it, and this afternoon when we recite the text in Tibetan, then you could participate in that and get that piece of it also. But right now, the prayer called Gelong Pema Karpo's Heart Practice goes like this. Well, we just recited the first 2 pages of it up through 24, which is an homage. Following the homage, then we come to the top of page 24, top left, which starts out, I pray to you, Lord of Love Chenrezig, victorious and compassionate one, hold us with your compassion. For beings experiencing unbearable suffering, wandering numberless in endless samsara, there is no refuge other than you, protector. Now, one way to read that is, there is no refuge but the realization of bodhicitta itself, which is why it is often said, if you understand what it is that you're looking at here, you would never abandon bodhicitta for a moment, even at the cost of your life. So, just to continue, grant the blessings to attain all-knowing Buddhahood. So that is the wish that we make. Then, on the top of page 25, continuing, it says, propelled by negative karma, accumulated from beginningless time, sentient beings are born in hell by the force of anger. So here, good to make a short stop and just look at this for a moment. There are many ways to talk about the realms of experience that all of the Vajrayana lineages talk about in different ways, slightly different ways. But it all comes down to variations on the truth of interdependence. That is, the truth of interdependence is a description of how karma works. So when we do something, even just think something, what to speak of, say something or do something physically, with intention especially, there is a result which will come from that. that result may come rather quickly. If you just slapped somebody's face, you might get your own face slapped. But that result may also not come for millennia and anything in between. Obviously, when it comes late, we are not able to connect the cause and the result. If somebody slaps my face today, I don't know why they're doing it, and maybe they don't either. But if it happens immediately, then we make the connection. The vast majority of karma ripens in such a way that we are unable to make any connection to anything from the past. But the philosophical underpinnings of that is there is no such thing as no result and no cause. If there's the cause put in place, the result will occur. That philosophical underpinning runs throughout, especially this section of the practice. So, propelled, it says, by negative karma, accumulated from beginningless time, sentient beings are born in hell by the force of anger. Now, what is hell? We also, aside from any religious or spiritual thing, many of us will say, when you say, "How are you today?" someone will say, "I'm in hell." Well, they don't really mean they're somewhere else than what you're looking at. They mean I'm having a miserable day. So, how is that different from a hell realm? In a certain sense, it's not different at all. From a Buddhist perspective, the most kind of, we could say, subtle, esoteric meaning is hell does not have a place in space and time. It does not have a location. We are born there by virtue of the causes and conditions that we put into place with our own actions of body, speech, and mind since time without beginning. The hell itself occurs when we're born there. In other words, we wake up in the morning and we're deathly ill. We've just been born in hell. That hell we may stay there for a minute, an hour, a day, the rest of our life, beyond. There's no way to know what that is. But what we know in some kind of coarse way is that certain things lead to certain very strong experiences that can actually cause us a lot of suffering and damage. So again, propelled by negative karma accumulated from beginningless time, sentient beings are born in hell by the force of anger. To indulge in anger for any sustained period of time is guaranteed to make you feel like you're in hell. We all know that. Next line. So, by the force of anger, and experience the suffering of heat and cold. So, the hell realms are often described as hot and cold to the point of abject misery. Interesting, across religious traditions, hell is almost always has an element of too hot and too cold. But it's also something symbolic, that is to say, extremes. When we live in a situation of extremes, we almost always are suffering and making the extremes even more extreme. So, and experience the suffering of heat of cold. Then we make the wish. May they be born in your presence, Supreme Deity, O Mani Padme Hum. So when we make the wish that beings be free of the suffering of the hell realms, we follow that by the statement, by the mantra, O Mani Padme Hum. When we say O Mani Padme Hum, remember where Chenrezig is? Where's Chenrezig? Crown of the head. So we imagine from Chenrezig's body, light emanates. Those 5 colors, red, green, blue, white, and yellow, primarily white, but also mixed with the others. that light radiates out intensely and strikes the beings who are suffering in these realms, and they are purified of the causes and the experience of that suffering. And it's not a gradual process. It's like the light radiates, it strikes, the purification is complete, they are liberated from that state. Now, the truth is that, I'm just going to say this because I have to, they never were in hell. They never were in hell. There is no such place as hell. It's just like when you wake up in the morning and you had a bad dream, a really bad dream. Where was that? Where did that dream occur? Can you even say that it was in your mind? Can you even say that it was in your body, your dream? Can you even say when it was? Not so good. So we say, actually, these things are like passing occurrences. They're waves of karmic ripening and so on. So we have suffering, that's for sure. The precise cause we cannot necessarily nail down unless we are a Buddha. So to keep some of these things in mind like that, so that it doesn't become like a fundamentalist kind of thing. There's no such place as hell, which is not to say that any person can have the experience of being born in hell for any length of time. It doesn't require a place. Our every night dream proves that it does not require a place. Okay? Enough. So, experiencing heat and cold, then we say, may they be born in your presence, Supreme Deity. We say, O Mani Padme Hum. We imagine this intense light goes out. The intensity of Chenrezig's realization of bodhicitta, the wish to benefit all sentient beings, regardless of what cost to himself. The light strikes the beings in that realm. The realm itself, all the beings are purified of the causes and conditions for having those experiences, and the realm itself is gone, just like the space where we had our dream is gone when we wake up in the morning. Next line. Propelled by negative karma accumulated from beginningless time. They all begin with that. Sentient beings are born in the Yidak realm. You know where that is? Okay, thank you for laughing. Yidak realm are the force of greed. The greed gives you the clue. The Yidaks are a family of sentient beings, like a category of sentient beings, who suffer from unbridled greed. The kind of greed that is so strong that you cannot give it up. You know the suffering it causes, you experience it, you experience the connections between the greed, the desire, the wanting, the needing, and the suffering, but you cannot give it up. It is unshakable in your experience. That is the Yidak realm. O Mani Padme Hum, the light goes out, the beings are purified of the causes and conditions of that suffering. Suffering and its causes are gone. The realm is not there. Not to say it won't be back tomorrow. It's very important, you know, it's like we can say the realm exists and you go there, we can do that. And many teachers will say that. I myself have said that. It's not exactly right. So we need to have a sense that if we solidify the realm in our own minds, we are actually making a mistake which will cause its own suffering. So these are intense experiences, and they can cause a lot of suffering, but it's good to ask the question and even just a little bit answer it. Where does it actually happen? And what caused it? the Buddha himself taught, like, you can never figure that out. Short of being completely enlightened, you will never know. So what we can know is that we have the experience. What we can know is that when we turn our attention to the benefit of others, we feel a sense of joy. So we can know a lot about how it works, and that's what this practice is meant to bring us to. Okay? So then we come to, propelled by negative karma accumulated from beginningless time, sentient beings are born in the demigod realm. Did I miss one?
Yes.
What happened?
We're on the animals.
Animals.
What happened to the animals?
And the humans.
We scared them off. Okay.
They wisely.
Where is it? Am I missing?
26.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's the problem. Wait a minute, there's another. Am I missing a page?
Middle of 26.
26.
26. What is it?
Yeah.
That's for the animals.
Okay. All right. Propelled by negative karma accumulated from beginningless time, this is in the middle of page 26, sentient beings are born. So the karmic cause and condition is they're born as animals by the force of bewilderment. So we used to say, because the translators used to say it like this, by the force of stupidity. But many people who really love animals felt that was derogatory. Well, it is kind of derogatory. It's also meant to be, you're meant to look at that and think like, what does that actually mean there? It's like, we're also stupid, obviously. So we can't just put the whole burden onto the animal realm. And yet, animals in general are less equipped to deal with certain circumstances than we are. They are captured, raised for their meat and eaten, and they cannot do anything about it. And their bewilderment, and if you will, just kind of lack of basic intelligence, makes it impossible for them to do something about it. And so there is suffering from that, deep suffering. So we say, sentient beings are born as animals by the force of bewilderment. I think bewilderment's a nice compromise in all of that. Bewilderment by virtue of not seeing how all the pieces fit together to bring about my current experience. And each one of us could say, yeah, I've had that experience. So, good not to make too hard of a distinction between the various categories, maybe. We've all had pets that we thought were smarter than we were, and maybe they were. So we come to the end of it, and we say, Om Mani Padme Hum. We imagine the light going out, purification happening again. Page 25. How did I see there's something?
27.
Okay. Propelled from negative karma accumulated from beginningless time, sentient beings are born in the human realm by the force of desire and attachment. Now we're happy with that, right?
No.
Desire and attachment?
We're happy as a translation.
Good enough. Okay. Desire and attachment. So we're intimate with that. We know that one really well. And so then the description, and experience the suffering of excess activity and frustration. I love that phrase.
Me too.
Here we are, many centuries before we had automation, before we had cars, before we had schedules, before we had all that stuff, and they were experiencing excess activity and frustration. We did not invent this. So, not that we were on a high horse about it, but the solution may actually be more universal than we might have thought. May they be born in the perfect realm of Dewa Chen, which is the pure realm of Amitabha. The source of Chenrezig. So we say O Mani Padme Hum. We imagine the light going out from Chenrezig, the purification happening. Now, at this very point, this is a seminal point in the practice, but we are humans.
Speak for yourself.
I am speaking for myself, and I'll just take the liberty of speaking for you too. Not that I'd want to point a finger, but. So we say, O Mani Padme Hum, the light goes out, it's purified. Now, humans appear as Chenrezig. I think I left this out. In each of the realms, when the light goes out and strikes the beings in that realm, they all appear as Chenrezig. All the beings in that realm appear as Chenrezig. It's like flash. The light strikes, all the beings are Chenrezig. For that realm. And the same is true for the human realm. Of course, the light goes out, all of the humans now appear as Chenrezig. So don't miss the boat. When the light purifies the human realm, imagine yourself appearing as Chenrezig, utterly free of all of the impediments previously experienced. Just imagine it. I mean, you don't have to be stupid and bewildered. You can just imagine that it is so. Then we continue. Propelled by, now I want to make sure I'm in the right space, okay? Propelled by negative karma accumulated from beginningless time, sentient beings are born in the demigod realm by the force of jealousy. The demigods, or what we sometimes call them the jealous gods, or the Asuras. They have a number of names. This form is unusual in its appearance. First of all, the demigods are sort of, demi kind of means half, so they're kind of like halfway to the god realm, you might say, and yet they can't get in. They can't quite make it there. And they are jealous of the god realms. See, we would never be jealous of the god realms because we can't see it. So the demigods see it, and they see what they experience and the kind of happiness and their relaxed state and everything they want and need, but they can't get in. They can't get in. So they actually attempt to wage war to get in. That doesn't work either. They can't get into that realm. So it just makes them more and more jealous all the time. So it's a really, like if you think about it, it's a terrible state. So, O Mani Padme Hum. The light goes out. No, not quite yet. And they experience the suffering of fighting and quarreling. May they be born in the realm of the Potala. We can go back to what these other realms are like at some point. But today, we say, O Mani Padme Hum, the light goes out. All of the demigods, the jealous gods, are immediately purified of that jealousy and other defilements, adventitious stains of various kinds, and they appear as Chenrezig. Exactly. They are, not just the appearance, but they are Chenrezig. Fundamentally, we're saying they recognize their true nature by virtue of the play between themselves and Chenrezig. Next, propelled by negative karma accumulated from beginningless time, sentient beings are born. Wait a minute, now I'm back to the animal realm.
You're on page 28. Stay on 28.
Oh. Okay,
Right in the
got it. Okay,
this page is out of order.
yeah, you're not kidding.
Yeah, no, it's out of order.
Where is that realm? propelled,
It's nowhere.
propelled by negative karma accumulated from beginningless time, sentient beings are born in the god realms by the force of pride. and experience the suffering of change and falling. May they be born in the realm of the Potala. Now, the God realm, just a note on it. The God realm, you would think, would be a really great place to aspire to go to. It's sort of like one of those science fiction movies where you are drawn into something because it looks so good, and then when you actually get in, it's the worst you could possibly have imagined. Well, the God realm, so the story goes, is such that you experience incredible ease and pleasure all the time, day and night, without any exception, for like huge amounts of time. Not just 80 or 90 years, like 80 or 90,000 years. It's just a huge thing. So you completely forget about karma. You completely forget about the other realms. You completely forget about suffering, which you haven't experienced now for a very long time. And then it comes to an end. The karma that brought it about finally is exhausted, and the suffering is more than it is in other places by virtue of the contrast and the falling back into the lower realms. So once again, we have Om Mani Padme Hum as the antidote. Take heed of action. Let's see. I'm lost again. Suffering of change. Okay, so that's the meaning of they experience the suffering of change and falling. May they be born in the realm of the Potala, Om Mani Padme Hum. So we imagine that all of the gods who are, some of them have no form, some of them have form. So you just imagine that they actually experience, witness their own actual nature and appear in the form of Chenrezig for the benefit of all beings. Okay, now we're down page
29.
Good. Okay. Life after life. On page 29 it says, with actions equaling Chenrezig's. So this is our aspiration now. With actions equaling Chenrezig's. May I liberate beings from impure realms and spread the perfect sound of the 6 syllables in the 10 directions. Now, this is also an interesting point here. Earlier in the text, as we go through the realms, one could imagine that being free of a realm would lead you to the place of pride. But the pride comes before the liberation. So the liberation by virtue of Chenrezig's actions does not include pride. In one sense, it does include pride, but it's part of the actual practice where we have a sense of certainty that we actually are Chenrezig. But it's not a prideful certainty, it's more like a recognition of our actual nature of mind. So here, once this has happened and we are actually liberated from the causes of suffering, then there's a small chance of an obstacle, which is that we refuse to act by virtue of a fear of falling into the sphere of pride. I say this only because you can read these things in much more detail, and some of them are extremely interesting to read and ponder. So, life after life. Now, beings are freed, but it is never the case that the job is really done, because part of the job is the recognition of that job, which is there because of the fact that sentient beings suffer from these confusions and the bewilderment and all of the things that we mentioned. So, arising from that place, that being, we might recite this, thinking of ourselves as having recognized something, authentically, not hypocritically or falsely. Life after life, with actions equaling Chenrezig's, may I liberate beings from impure realms, that is to say, all of the confused realms, and spread the perfect sound of the 6 syllables, that's the Om Mani Padme Hum mantra, in the 10 directions, which is code. The 10 directions is a code phrase for all directions, and it's described as the 8 cardinal conditions on a compass, for example, plus up and down. I think all you need to remember is it means every direction without exception. So, by the power of praying to you, perfect noble one, that's Chenrezig. Whenever we see noble one, it means Chenrezig in this text. May the beings to be trained by me. Now you're stepping into the place of, I'm going to take responsibility for all of the confusion in the vast universes. Trained by me, take heed of action and result, that is, pay attention to what you do, because everything you do is going to bear a result, and strive for virtuous activity. Page 30. May they possess the Dharma for the benefit of beings. In other words, may they also hold the aspiration bodhicitta and rise to the level of Chenrezig. So now I'm going to take this out of here. Oh, we already did it. It's okay. Okay. There's our mantra page. Did we skip ahead?
32.
Huh?
32.
Go to 32.
31.
Okay, there's 32. And there's 31.
Yeah,
Get a shrine
that's
word
right.
copy.
That's right.
That's not right, because 31 has to come before 33.
Right, and we just put,
Okay.
yeah. Sorry.
Okay. So we're on page 30. We're moving to 31. We just did 30, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the point at which we recite the mantra.
Is that it?
Is what it? Yeah, that's it.
It's a call for Chenrezig.
Okay, let's take. Can we take 10 minutes, and we'll come back from our break 10 minutes late.
It's lunch.
This is the lunch break.
Yeah, I understand. We'll come back. We'll just do this right now to finish it up, and then we'll come back just a little bit later after lunch.
140 instead of
We won't
1.
miss
Yeah,
the
140.
whole
Come back at 1.
Yeah. Now let's not discuss it for 10 minutes. Let's move.
Do that.
Is that something
Do we not know where that is?
Is it this?
It's this?
Why would that be going on?
I've never heard this go off.
We've never heard it go off.
I'm not sure.
I did that
A while back.
Okay. I think it heard the
It's the
threat.
lunch bell.
Okay.
So we come
Now-
back in 10 minutes, Lama, and then we have some lunch?
No, 10 minutes after.
Okay,
What?
we're gonna
10
go
minutes
for
now.
10 more
Oh.
minutes.
Yeah,
And
just,
Okay, excuse me.
let's just do it. So this is where we recite the mantra. And while we recite the mantra, so there's numerous things you can do. Someone say something?
Page 31.
We didn't read this yet.
It's page 32. Did we?
We didn't do 31.
Oh, we didn't. I thought I asked
We
about
didn't
that.
talk about 31
Okay, all right.
to tell
Yeah,
us
you're
what
right.
to
Okay.
think.
All right. Let's go back to 31, which is just before the mantra. So here we are kind of talking to ourselves by praying one pointedly in this manner. That refers to all, we can say, it refers to all that went before, up to this point, especially the purification of the realms, Chenrezig's enlightened activity. So by praying one pointedly in this manner, light radiates from the body of the Noble One, that's Chenrezig, purifies impure karma, appearance, and deluded mind. So you can imagine this like just the light goes out to all the realms and the purification happens in one moment. So this is common, and so that's what this sentence is about. The outer environment becomes the realm of Dewa Chen. Dewa Chen is the pure realm of Amitabha, which we can take as a realm which has all of the requirements in all ways, such that if one is actually born into that realm, then they're virtually assured of attaining great realization or even full enlightenment by virtue of the causes and conditions that are part of that realm. The body, speech, and mind of the inhabitants of the purified realm now we're talking about, right, become the exalted body, speech, and mind of the powerful Chenrezig. And then the statement of the ultimate, really, kind of the ultimate realization. Appearance, sound, and awareness are inseparable from emptiness. So that we will not go into today, but we will flip over, and at this point we recite the mantra. While we recite the mantra, my recommendation is one of two things. We're only going to recite for a couple of minutes. Normally you'd recite for at least 20 minutes, but today, not so. While you recite the mantra, hold your awareness on the sound itself as it occurs, the sound of your own voice, the sound of the voices of others, and in addition, the inanimate sounds, the sounds that occur from cars, airplanes going over, anything, whatever it is, the beep of a watch, anything. It is all the sound of the 6 syllables. And while you listen to them, you hold the view that it is the sound of the 6 syllables. So we will first sing this 2 or 3 rounds, just not a round on the mala, but just for like 1 minute. Then we'll recite it for a minute or 2, and we'll finish up quickly. this stage, we imagine that all of the outer environment, this is of Dewa Chen, but we also imagine that where we are right now is Dewa Chen. And we now engage in the dissolution phase. So we think of all of the inanimate aspects, the non-living aspects of the environment. The walls, the tables, the mountains, the seashore, automobiles and airplanes, everything that is inanimate gradually begins to dissolve. And it all dissolves and is absorbed by all of the beings in Dewa Chen. And all of those beings then also one by one at first begin to dissolve into each other. And faster, the beings all dissolve into each other until the totality of that dissolution is an extremely bright, white, almost pearlescent liquid light. And that light begins to be absorbed into the Chenrezig on the crown of our heads. And we are also in the form of Chenrezig, but Chenrezig is still on the crown of our heads, and on the crown of Chenrezig's head is still Amitabha. So all of the beings who have dissolved now dissolve into the form of Chenrezig as our own body. And the Chenrezig on the crown of our own head begins to dissolve into our own form as Chenrezig. That dissolution comes to an end, and we imagine in our heart center, equidistant from the front and back of our bodies and right in the center of our bodies, there is a white lotus and a moon seat surmounted by the letter Hri. And that lotus and moon seat gradually dissolve into each other. And the Hri also begins to dissolve into itself, getting thinner and smaller, but not dimmer. It remains very bright, until it becomes so small you can barely see it, and then it dissolves into itself. And in that space, we relax our minds and rest just in the clear awareness of the nature of all things. And when we are finished, which is actually about the amount of time we just spent, is correct. If you turn or be on page 33, the instruction for how to work with this between formal sessions, so the informal caring session. The instruction begins on the top of page 33, the left-hand side. The apparitional bodies of myself and others are the body of the Noble One. So we continue to hold the view that our own body and the body of Chenrezig are the same. Sounds are the melody of the 6 syllables, the mantra. Thought and memory are waves of great intrinsic awareness. So just a statement about that. Normally we take thought and memory and all the aspects of memory and thinking about those memories and all, which is what we do perpetually. We take that as a fault in the meditation. In this case, we are meant to recognize that thought and memory and all as utterly illusionary. And therefore we say, thought and memory are waves of great intrinsic awareness. And then, by this virtue, may I quickly accomplish the state of powerful Chenrezig and establish all beings without exception on that level. And then the dedication on page 35. Reciting and meditating, may I and every being to whom I am connected,
as soon as these impure forms are left behind, be miraculously born in Dewa Chen. Immediately then, having thoroughly traversed the 10 levels, may we benefit others with emanations in the 10 directions.
By this virtue may all beings perfect the accumulation of merit and wisdom, and arising from merit and wisdom attain the 2 sacred bodies. Bodhicitta is precious, may it arise in whom it has not arisen. Once arisen, may it ever grow and flourish. So we'll have our lunch break, and let's see. You have something, Dora?
Is it down here? No. Well, what I know is that there's work happening at the new center, and Adele, so especially Tuesday and Wednesday. Wednesday is going to be another dumpster day. So Tuesday, there's, oh, what, Tuesday?
Tuesday and Wednesday both.
So Tuesday and Wednesday both were times they could use help over there, and it's good to get in touch with Adele if you are able to do it. And there's little sheets with her, little slips with her name or contact on the kitchen bulletin board, I think. And the other thing is, if you'd rather go out in the countryside and work, the retreat land is having another work party this weekend, and it's really beautiful out there at this time of year, although the weather, you gotta watch and see what the weather's gonna be that day.
Next week.
But it's the 8th. And they'll be doing more work with brush and possibly burning, and I think there's even some planting going on too. So, and then you wanted to tell about Jeff and Sally's class?
Jeff and Sally Allworth are leading a class that called Care and Feeding of Your Daily Practice. It starts this next Tuesday, and it goes 5 Tuesday evenings in a row. And you can go on our website and learn about it and sign up.
The registration is open now.
Registration's open.
Yeah.
And today, if you're a person who practices Chenrezig regularly and you brought your own text, there's a prayer we have here to insert. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry. It was inserted into all the texts already that are here and in the bookcase. This is just if you brought your own text, so that you can have this extra long life prayer for Kempo Lodro Donyo Rinpoche. And I have some, and Melinda has some. Okay?
You can just help yourself.
Yeah.
So I just want to announce Lama Michael has a class coming up May 13th that
Oh,
the
yeah.
registration is open for now. About mind training.
I don't know.
That's a good thing you reminded me.
May 13th, look on the website.
Ryan won't let you forget.
And I think we need another person or two to help get lunch ready.
I think there might be another one needed to
saw
set up, but for
only
sure,
one.
for cleanup, we need another
Okay.
1 or 2 folks.
So there's a sign-up list out there, you can just pitch in. Thank you.
Next mind training is on Thursday, is it this Thursday?
Yes, mind train, no,
Oh, second and fourth Thursday?
second and fourth. Mind training Thursday evening, second and fourth, 7 to 8:30. Please come.
Yeah, this one had 5 weeks, so.
I know, I kept getting like
Yeah.
every other, and I was
Every
like,
other.
wait.
Yeah, we didn't do the 5th.